Welcome back to It's Been a Minute. Romans chapter 12 verse 2 says, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God." In verse 1, Paul says, give your life completely over to God. Verse 2, he says, and do not be conformed to this world. Do not wrap your life around the ways of this world. Do not be what this world wants you to become. And if you do that, you'll do something that every Christian wants to do. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So many times people ask themselves, what's the will of God for my life? Well, if you read in the Bible, it tells you. And here's a great example of that. The will of God is for your life is to not be conformed, to not look like the rest of this world, but to look like what God wants you to look like, to live a life completely following Christ. And what's great here is he says that you may prove, not that you may know a little bit, not that you can know something, but you can actually prove. You can know that this is the truth. The will of God for your life is to not be conformed to this world. And what does it mean to not be conformed to this world? It means to walk in grace. In fact, the next verse, verse 3, Paul starts talking about the grace of God. Walking in grace means walking in freedom. The freedom to no longer have to be a slave to sin, but now you have the freedom to live for Jesus. As Romans 6 tells us, a freedom to be a slave to God, to be controlled by someone who loves you more than anything and anything ever will love you. So verse 2, we'll read it again. And do not be conformed to this world. If you're a living sacrifice, you won't be conformed to this world, but be transformed completely. Change your mindset that says, I have to work to earn God's favor. I have to work to earn these things. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. God's will is that your mind is changed to be like his, to walk in that grace and walk in that freedom that he has for all of us. So thank you. I hope you come again to It's Been a Minute.